What is up, everybody? Fantasy Sweaters, thanks for joining us. Welcome to the Daily Fantasy Sweat podcast. I am your host, Kris King, on a Tuesday. Rocking the bracelet today. I voted today. I didn't actually vote today. I voted like last week sometime, but I got the wristband and just decided to throw it on today because it's election day. Make sure you do your civic duty and get out there and vote. What's up to Patrick Ewing in the back? I realize I never shout out Patrick. He just hangs out behind me back here. Let's say a little what's up, see if we can get his face in the shot there. Patrick Ewing from the same collection, this cutout collection, as if you remember from Home Alone when Marv and Harry are there and Kevin's trying to convince him that there's people there, and they put him on the train, and Michael Jordan's going by. From the same collection as that Michael Jordan cutout. So what's up to Patrick Ewing? Maybe he'll chime in here later. What else? I think that's it. Thanks for listening to the show yesterday. Got some good feedback on that, good numbers on that. The review show, we reviewed the cash game lineup, some GPP stuff, some underdog stuff, and underdog is going to be a bigger part of this show going forward because it's a platform that I think needs to be utilized more often, and I think there's leverage to be had over there. The contests are definitely winnable. You can definitely take down a contest over there. I think the competition is softer. So we did not do very well last night because we went all in on Tampa Bay, but I liked my process. And you might say, and even on DraftKings, I didn't do well. And you might say, in a situation like this, Kris, where everyone is pretty much on board with Tampa Bay hanging 35 on the Giants and the Giants being lucky if they score 10 points, why wouldn't you just go the opposite way? Because the field is going to be on Tampa Bay. Well, I just didn't believe that it was even possible. But it's the NFL. Anything can happen, especially in one game. So that is my fault for steering you in the wrong direction. All right, speaking of the slate last night, I'm interested to look more into Showdown. I don't like doing, I've done some Showdown shows in the past, and it's really, what am I going to do? Tell you which plays are the good plays? Sure, sometimes there are some glaring, matchup issues or whatever that fall out, but it's more just about strategy and picking your fades and picking who you're going to go all in on. And I think there's more to learn about Showdown from studying the past slates than actually just doing shows to try to predict and tell you who to play. I think this is actually more helpful, taking 3 minutes to review the winning lineup. So in a contest that didn't have the exact outcome that you thought and was a little bit more of a lower scoring affair, but very even on both sides, this 3v3 of that's not really 3v3, but a balanced build of 3 on one side versus 3 on another side. Wayne Gallman with Daniel Jones to Sterling Shepard on the Giants side, and then it's a run back with, I guess it's not a run back, but whatever. Ronald Jones, Scotty Miller, and Ryan Suckup for the Tampa Bay side. I loved Wayne Gallman yesterday. I only played him in one captain spot. Just didn't get the right construction on the rest of that lineup. But he was the one guy from the Giants that I wanted more than anybody. I really didn't think the passing game was, which is interesting because, the Tampa Bay's whole defense is really good. But their run defense is extremely good. But I was convinced that Gallman would get those touches and he would be able to do something with those. Where I wasn't sure, if certain receivers would even catch a pass, So that's why I was more confident on Gallman. But anyway, there's your lineup, your winning lineup for the million. And Big Bluff 44, a single bullet, took down the million all by himself. No dupe lineups with Wayne Gallman, Jones 2. That's Ronald Jones, Scotty Miller, Sterling Shepard, and Ryan Suckup. So congratulations to Big Bluff 44. Time to get into Week 9 and the slate. Over on DK, got to readjust over here my screen for the YouTube crowd. Thanks for watching on YouTube if you are. You got to get more subscribers though. Like, I know we're getting views over there, but you guys got to hit the subscribe button. We got to grow that. So hit the subscribe button, notification bell, click all, so you get all notifications every time we release a video. I love notifications. Some people don't like notifications, but if I don't get them, I'm not going to some apps on my phone. I'm just not. So I don't mind notifications. I mean, I like when I pick up my phone having to be like, oh, look, let's check this out. I don't know. I'm weird like that, but I don't know. Do you like notifications or do you not like notifications? Anyway, we're going to go game by game because I think this makes it interesting to kind of view every game and find out the target, the games that we want to target, instead of just going position by position and say, oh, yeah, Patrick Mahomes is a good play. Kyler Murray's a good play. Russell Wilson's a good play. They're expensive. I think kind of getting the game environment in, locked in our heads is kind of a good way to do this. So let's start with Carolina, Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes up top. He is a good play. Carolina defense playing much better as a team, just all around, than we thought they would, but nobody is scaring Mahomes. He is the top priced quarterback on the slate, so be prepared to pay up. I think a lot of people will go here. Just a lot more and more DFS players are getting smart and getting away from recency bias, and the game log watchers start to fade a little bit. Although, as more DFS players get better, you always have new ones coming in. And I think right now we are having an influx of new DFS players coming in. So a lot of those people will look at this, this game log. They will game log watch and be like, 39. He's going to do that again. He's playing great right now. I mean, that's kind of their mindset. So I think he will come with some ownership for sure. I mean, it's a great game for stacking. Will McCaffrey be back? I don't know. Let's pop over here. He's still listed with the IR, the red IR next to his name. Coach Matt Rule said Monday that he's hopeful McCaffrey will be activated from IR for this Sunday's game against the Chiefs. So it's looking promising that he could be available. So 8,500. He's still a pricey play. I have not discounted him at all, so decent stacking options, very expensive stack, but you could also just get away from here. I mean, if that's the case, I don't know, like, you have to wonder, like, is Mike Davis going to remain a part of this offensive scheme, or will McCaffrey just take over once again? It's interesting. I think if Mike Davis may have played better in his last two games, that may have happened, but he's kind of underperformed in those last two. As you can see here, 8 and 8 fantasy, but really last 3 and 12. He hasn't really performed since week 5 in Atlanta. So I don't know if Davis will hold on to any role. I mean, maybe he gets, I don't know, maybe he gets 20%, maybe it's an 80-20 split. Still I'd still favor McCaffrey in that situation and would still play him. So we don't know what's going to happen there. Let's move it on to the receivers. And then, we didn't talk about Teddy Bridgewater, but I don't think he's necessarily, I mean, you can play him for tournaments, but I don't think he has a big impact. So we will skip some players here. We can't go through every player on a first look. We're just seeing what pops. Tyreek Hill coming up in price after having a massive game against the New York Jets. He was 6,700. Now he is 7,100, kind of creeping up to a salary level that we are familiar with. We were getting Tyreek Hill for a discount. He's still he's still in the realm of being playable. But I'm remembering days when Tyreek Hill would be far more expensive, but he is very volatile. If you are going to stack this game, on the Kansas City side with Patrick Mahomes, Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, they are both in play. DJ Moore at 5,600, that is a great price here. I think he's extremely underpriced for the pace of this game. The matchup isn't great, but it's not terrible either. I could definitely get to some of that. Travis Kelce, Carolina. I feel like they haven't been very good against tight ends this year. But it really doesn't matter. It doesn't. It has matchups don't matter with Travis Kelce. Forget this 6. This was in the snow. This is when Kansas City scored 2 defensive touchdowns, so their offense really just wasn't on the field. But just one of the best floors for a tight end in the league. And that's where we move on to the next game. We go to Seattle-Buffalo. I think this game has huge potential. And, I mean, let's look across the board here before we go game by game. You see, we're always targeting Seattle, so this game is certainly going to be in the mix. Carolina, Kansas City, people will look at that. Here's Atlanta in a dome game. They're at home, so Denver, we should have started off doing this and just kind of felt out the entire scope of the slate. So maybe, I don't know, there's definitely some opportunities to take advantage of some Denver players. Drew Lock would not be out of consideration this week. Noah Fant. Jerry Jeudy is sort of underwhelmed, but I don't know. There may be some pieces in that passing game. I haven't really looked at all their salaries and whatnot, but yeah, Denver is definitely a place where you could go. Will they garner some ownership because they're facing, Atlanta? Has that faded off enough for people to jump on that? Is everyone on like, oh, you got to play Seattle? Because earlier in the season it was like, well, you got to attack Atlanta in the passing game. Quarterbacks to receivers do really well in that situation. So, where's ownership going to go in these first 3 games? Very appealing matchups and situations in all of these games. Baltimore, Indy, I don't think many people are going to be on this. It could be a really good spot for Lamar in a dome on the fast track against a good defense that he can't just kind of cruise to get the numbers. He's going to have to try. And I kind of like Lamar in these situations where he has to try a little harder and they don't just, float to a massive lead. So I think Lamar could be a good spot here. I think this game overall will probably be under-owned. Just not very many sexy names on the Colts side because of the Baltimore defense as well. And then just people are kind of off Baltimore. They're not as sexy this year either. Houston, Jacksonville, this will garner a lot of ownership, I believe, for cash games. I think Watson is, let's not talk about plays, just environment. This is a really good environment of 2 really bad defenses I think people are going to be on. Detroit, Minnesota, see this little wind thing here? I'm not sure what the conditions are, but we will have to check that. We saw how conditions affected the slate this last week. If winds are going to be an issue, and even if they're not, Dalvin Cook in this game is going to be a place we want to go. So we'll have to check that. As far as weather, looks all clear for the rest of the games weather-wise. New York, Washington, potential like a shit show, kind of garbage time game there. Very little kind of defense. Maybe these offenses have found their rhythm, and it could be one of those games where you just see just no defense being played, even though Washington's a good defensive team in some areas. But you could see that game environment getting out of hand. Chicago, Tennessee, nothing special there, just kind of a mid-range kind of game. Las Vegas Chargers, I think you could definitely see some fantasy potential there. Miami, Arizona's got potential. Pittsburgh, Dallas has potential, that passing game. But I think the biggest place you're going to see ownership kind of come together, I don't know, it could be very spread out. I don't know. Now that I look at these games as a whole, I think I'm going to really like this slate because I don't think there's anything that's super obvious. It's like, oh, we attack Seattle, but Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills have been very underwhelming as of late. So do you really go all in there? Josh Allen is still in the 7K range, so it's not like it's a super great value. All right, let's get back to the game by game as we've sort of looking at the slate as a whole, and we definitely see pieces and slots that we can slot in. It's really going to come down to ownership this week because you can't play everybody, so where's the ownership going? And I think there's going to be a lot of really great pivots. So I like this. I like this week both for success in cash and GPPs. Maybe one of my favorite slates in a while. because there's nothing like super obvious hanging out there, but really good plays. So where's the ownership gonna gravitate to? So yeah, Russell Wilson. I mean, we know, great play. The secondary of the Buffalo Bills has not been great this year. You see this green 29 here. That's their DVP ranking, and don't always put all your eggs in that basket, but certainly doesn't hurt at running back. Chris Carson is questionable. We saw DJ Dallas get a severe amount of the workload. I thought Travis Homer might be involved, but coming as he was questionable, I guess, even though he was ruled active, he wasn't going to be the lead back. That's for sure. DJ Dallas got 18 attempts. He got a rushing touchdown. He got 5 receptions on 5 targets, a receiving touchdown as well. He could be in play here as a cheap guy if we get news that Carlos Hyde will be out, that Chris Carson is out. Even if Hyde plays, maybe they just want to lean towards Dallas as their future. We'll have to see what happens with Homer. A lot to look at there. And I never want to play Buffalo running backs because they cannibalize each other. Josh Allen cannibalizes them. Receivers, I think you're going to see a lot of ownership here because I think receiver-wise, this is where you will see a lot of ownership come in. You got DK. You got Lockett. They've just been wreaking havoc. You got Diggs on the other side going up against a very weak Seattle pass defense. You got John Brown as a cheap option. I mean, you could play any and all these guys and be fine. I think John Brown's going to be an amazing play this week, actually. I hope that people are so focused on Diggs that they don't really think about Brown. Can Brown be a cash play? He's such a boomer bust type guy, but in this situation, I mean, you look at these fantasy points, earlier in the year had some nice games, but the floor recently has been literally a giant hole in the floor of 0. So yeah, I don't know if you can get there in cash, but certainly a GPP play. For me at tight end, nothing really here. I don't like playing Greg Olsen. I don't really, like playing. Yeah, there's just nothing here. So let's move on. Denver, Atlanta. Like I mentioned, Drew Lock could be a stellar play here. Matt Ryan could go low owned. Denver secondary isn't phenomenal, and we know Atlanta is a high-powered offense. But getting back to Lock over here for 5,200, this could be an interesting cash play as well. I think he is a good quarterback. Just watching him out there, just the eye test, I think he's got what it takes if he can get a good team around him. At running back, you got Todd Gurley. Not a great matchup here. We saw him just sort of lose touches to Brian Hill last week. He got 18 attempts, so that's not terrible. He did manage to get a touchdown. I mean, nothing in the passing game, just nothing. And he had been involved in the passing game before. I mean, pretty much all season outside of week 2. And then week 8, just nothing. Just took him out. And that stuff went to Brian Hill. So that's certainly, 3 targets, 2 receptions, 9 yards. I mean, it's not, phenomenal. But the point is Todd Gurley lost it. So I think that takes him out of consideration. I really just want these passing offenses. I want stacks with both quarterbacks. I want some run backs with some receivers. Noah Fant might be high up on my list at tight end. I just think him and Drew Lock have a really great relationship. Albert O coming in the mix takes away a little of Fant's upside, but he's really never going to give you a 0, so that's good. I mean, at worst, you might be looking at one of these numbers, a 6, 7, 8, 9, and then he can get up to the high teens. So Noah Fant I like this week, 4,600, nice mid-range price. Let's back up a little bit. 2 wide receiver. Calvin Ridley, will he play? Is a big question. Ridley has been diagnosed with a mid-foot sprain. Ridley went down Thursday. I don't think we have a lot of information yet for Ridley, but if he doesn't play, that certainly opens up targets for Julio, opens up targets for Russell Gage, opens up targets for Hayden Hurst. So we can get back to Julio here. No reason to really open his player card. I didn't want to look at any of his stats, but if Ridley's out, definitely makes these other pass catchers, in play. On the Denver side, man, the receiving core has been really hard to trust. Jerry Jeudy just not, a stellar game. It is decent, 11.3 fantasy points. I guess this could be a blow-up game where nobody plays him. I need to open up instead of being such a game log watcher like I talked about before. I mean, his ceiling has been just barely breaking double-digit points, but I don't know, the Chargers, good secondary. Kansas City, pretty good secondary. New England, they have great cornerbacks. The Jets are what they are. He had his best game against the Jets. Tampa Bay, good defense. Pittsburgh, good defense. Tennessee, not so much. But so this is really a spot where Jerry Jeudy could be. Oh, maybe I found my GPP play this week. If no one's going to get on this guy, maybe this is when he goes absolutely nuclear against this terror. I mean, that's a lot of good defenses that Jeudy has been playing. So I don't know. Keep that in mind. Very nice price tag. Tim Patrick, questionable. This isn't really, I'm not going to read this. But he's been involved. You saw KJ Hamler and Hamilton catch a number of balls last week. Just an interesting spot for both passing games here. Let's move on to Baltimore, Indianapolis. I can't shake it. I just literally can't shake calling the Pacers the Indianapolis Pacers and the Colts the Indiana Colts. I don't know what my issue is. All right, in this game, we started quarterback. Obviously, I mentioned Lamar Jackson on a fast track on a turf field. Really good track for running. We kind of look at who he's played before and a lot of outdoor games. Maybe Lamar in a dome could be a thing. Rivers, I just don't want any Colts here. I don't see how this game is going to be super high-paced. And so, it's probably not going to have a great total. I'm not even looking at totals at this point in the week because they may change. But, yeah, I'm not really interested in many Colts. Jonathan Taylor, questionable. He had a bit of an ankle injury following Sunday's win. So, I don't know if he plays. I'm not interested. Jonathan Taylor's just looking like a bad running back. But if he misses, Nyheim Hines or Jordan Wilkins could, find themselves in the mix against a Baltimore run defense. It's tough to get there. We just don't know yet. Hard to talk about that situation. J.K. Dobbins looked pretty good. 15 attempts, 113 yards. Got a receiving. Got a little bit. A couple targets in the receiving game. 16 fantasy points. J.K. Dobbins could be on his way to being the lead back there. Gus Edwards, got work as well. But I like this running game a little bit more if Mark Ingram is out. Instead of, three-headed monster, it now goes down to two. And I could be interested in either of those guys. And then, like I said, Wilkins is extremely cheap. He's 42 if you want to go that direction. We're waiting for the Hollywood Brown blow-up game. We really haven't seen it. He's had some decent games against Cleveland, against Cincinnati, but I wouldn't call those blow-up games. Can he do it against the Colts? I don't know. It's just not a game I'm getting super excited about. So overall, let's just move on. Not excited about that game, except maybe playing, Lamar. And obviously, if you're going to play Lamar, decide if you want to skinny stack or run naked, however you want to do it. It's pretty simple with Lamar. All right, this is a game I am definitely interested in. Deshaun Watson and the Houston Texans against the Jags. Looks like Gardner Minshew is going to miss, which brings Jake Luton. I don't know why. Is he for sure the starter? Or is Mike Glennon going to start? I mean, they're both super cheap. I feel like maybe did they announce who's going to start? I'm not sure. But you have a couple cheap options against a very bad defense in Houston. So if you want to go that route just to save some money, it's absolutely in the cards. But I love Deshaun Watson this week. You look at his last few games, and dude's just been on fire since firing Bill O'Brien. 27, 35, 29 in his last three. He's got a great floor, a massive ceiling, playing a terrible defense who has been banged up. And if like Miles Jack is going to miss again, and they're going to be missing a lot of pieces on defense, I definitely am going to look to Deshaun Watson to anchor my cash games, possibly, as well as GPP. James Robinson. I always want to call him Jerome Robinson. I don't know why. He's in a really great spot this week. Texans can't really defend the run at all, so they're just bad on defense all around. If you have a quarterback who's not experienced, you're going to see James Robinson's attempts probably go up. You're probably going to see him, he's already super involved in the run or the pass game. 4, 7, 4, 6 targets out of the last 4 weeks, and that could only go up if whoever, if it's Glennon or Lutton or Luton or whatever his name is a check down machine. James Robinson in the realm for a solid amount of targets this week. He's definitely in play. David Johnson, he's been very consistent. I mean, look at these numbers. I'd be happy to, maybe have gotten this guy super cheap or kind of late in season long, although he wasn't really going, super late. It's a decent floor, looking at double digits at least. I don't think he's going to kill you against Jacksonville, who's terrible against the run. Maybe a good spot where you're predicting. Look, he did have his best game last week against, one of the worst run defenses in the league, if not the worst. Jacksonville's not far behind them, and had basically his best game outside of week 1. So maybe he's set up to have another one in a low-owned spot. Could get into David Johnson for him for some tournament plays this week. At receiver, Will Fuller could absolutely smash. We've yet to see him, against Tennessee. He had a really good game there. But really smash. Like, catching a second touchdown, which would add another, 6 points here. If he caught a touchdown, if it's a big, long bomb, you add, say another 40, 50, 60 yards to his totals, another catch. And then he's looking at, over 40 fantasy points. And we could see that against Jacksonville. Didn't really do all that well against Jacksonville the first time, only 15, but I think he's got an explosive ceiling, could just blow the roof off things. Brandon Cooks, look at his target share, 9, 9, 12, 3, not so great. That was the week everyone played him. 5, 8, and really the trend of the last 3 weeks, 12, 9, 9, is really what you're looking at, and he's only 5,500. I think he's going to be back in the conversation for cash this week, so he could be very chalky, but kind of watch those numbers, see where things go. Man, DJ Chark has really disappointed this week. The last 3 weeks, 3, 11, and 4 fantasy points. He did put up almost 30 against Cincinnati, but outside of that, just no ceiling whatsoever. I don't know what's going on with him. He's missed a week or so. Looks like just 1 week in there. So I don't know if you can trust him. He is 5,200. He's very cheap. So if you're looking for a run back, he's cheap enough. Randall Cobb could be in the mix. Laviska Shenault. Keelan Cole has been a really solid floor guy outside of last week when he only got 2 points. But, he's a decent option for 4K. Tight end, I don't really want any of these guys, especially if Akins comes back. I don't know if Akins miss. I could see playing Fells at 42, but I don't know. I'd want that price tag to be lower. So let's move on to the next game. Detroit, Minnesota. We have, again, this is the wind game, so if it is going to be windy, then just look to the ground. And I really like Dalvin Cook, what he offers. Look, 30 attempts last week. Going back to previous weeks, 27 attempts, 22 attempts. They are running the ball at a massive clip, and if it's windy and if they get out to a lead, they're going to keep doing that. So Dalvin Cook makes a great play. I'm sure people are going to be on him. last week, after last week, Detroit's a bad run defense. He just put up a massive game, so I'm sure he's going to come with some ownership. DeAndre Swift, he's this guy that I'm waiting to break. I'm waiting for him to break out. Showing, he kind of already has. He had this 30 spot here against Jacksonville. So I'm waiting for another one, and I think interesting situation this week. After he only put up 5 fantasy points last week, maybe kind of that shine comes off of him, and then just bam, he just hits the ground running against Minnesota, who's just not either nor good nor bad against the rush. So I know also you probably use him in the passing game, especially if they get behind. Also in a week when they don't have Kenny Golladay because he is showing as doubtful. So, I like the ground games on both sides, especially if it's going to be windy. And, I wouldn't rule out Thielen or Jefferson either. I don't know what the wins are going to be unless they are going to be, Minnesota Green Bay kind of situation. And we even saw what Aaron Rodgers was able to do. He was able to throw a number of touchdowns to Devontae Adams, even with that wind. So I don't hate the passing game here on the Minnesota side. So tight end, Hawkinson, he's always just that kind of mid-range. I really like tier 2 tight end, who's just always seems like he's overpriced at 5,100. He's got the ability to go off. He's got some pretty nice numbers, 13, 16, 10. Even in his down games, it's 9, 9. So he's got a decent floor. So don't hate him here, but he is a little expensive. All right, let's move on. Let's just move on down the line. We've got 5 more games to get through. And, not a lot of time. I guess we have all the time in the world. But, again, this New York at Washington, a game that could absolutely just turn to a shit show, have no defense. Who knows? If it's low owned, it's definitely a place that I want to get to, and I think it possibly will be low owned. Both of these quarterbacks kind of coming into, like Daniel Jones coming off. He's got to be feeling good against that win against Tampa Bay. Kyle Allen maybe getting in the groove there with his team, like a veteran quarterback. Just, I just have this weird feeling about this game. So either quarterbacks or Ross World, they're both gross, but at these prices in the 5K range, if you're going to stack, you're going to be able to do a lot in your lineups if you are stacking these games. Antonio Gibson, he seems to have kind of come on as kind of getting that lead back role. Got 20 attempts against Dallas, put up 21 fantasy points. I like seeing that, so I like him this week. Gallman at 4,500 if Freeman is still out, which I'm not sure. I'm going to click on this, and it's probably not going to tell us anything. Yeah, it's just talking about he won't play Monday, so it's just old news. So Gallman could be interesting if Freeman is out. Let's look at receiver, McLaurin. He's going back up against James Bradbury. We just saw this matchup, actually, I think the week before last. So he gets another tough cornerback, but I think McLaurin can overcome that. I faded Mike Evans in most of my contests last night because kind of the same situation, and Brady just spreads the ball around a lot. But in Washington, I think McLaurin right now at this point in his career, Mike Evans is getting up there. He's still talented, but I'm much less worried about McLaurin with Bradbury on him than Mike Evans. And then the concentration of targets, McLaurin's going to get that over Mike Evans all the time. So I'm not really worried about this. Maybe people come off McLaurin, and I think he pans out as a great play. Slayton, Shepard, they're going to be tough to predict who kind of gets the work there, and not really interested in anything below that. Evan Ingram finally seeing some looks last night. He got 10 targets, 7 receptions, 61 yards. He got that rushing. Man, they're using him. Look at this. 2 rushing attempts for 9 yards, 2 rushing attempts for 3 yards, 1 rushing attempt for 9 yards. Sometimes these will turn into touchdowns. He got 1 touchdown, 1 rushing touchdown. Oh, he got 1, but he got it called back. That's right. So, Evan Ingram, I don't hate. Logan Thomas kind of becoming relevant again. He started off, hot earlier in the year, targets of 8, 9, 7. It's been 4, 4, 4, 4 for the rest of the way, but actually in the recent weeks, he's been able to turn those into something with 2 touchdowns and more than 40 yards both weeks. So Logan Thomas could come back into play as a very cheap tight end, maybe for cash, $3,700. Feel good about that for that price. Let's move on to Cincinnati. Not Cincinnati, that's Chicago. Chicago, Tennessee. I'm just going to adjust the YouTube screen for you. Again, this game isn't something that's like screaming value. You can attack both games in the air, but it's definitely a spot where I think in tournaments, Derrick Henry could be interesting because people are going to look at the matchup. And this is just one of those weeks where Derrick Henry is going to get no ownership. And if you roster him in GPPs, this is the week that he wins you a tournament. I mean, it's definitely that type of setup. So watch for the ownership on Henry. I don't want any part of David Montgomery. Let's back up to the quarterbacks. I don't really want to roster Foles. What did he do this past week? He gave you 17. I brought him up a couple times this week because of what New Orleans allows the quarterback to do. And it's a serviceable week for sure. And he's given you, at least one of those again here against Carolina, 17. Week 3 against Atlanta, 18. So in good matchups, he tends to thrive a little bit. I mean, his floor's been fairly decent overall. You could do worse, I think, for 5-5 for Foles. Tannehill's probably where I'd want to go, but this game just isn't super appealing to me overall. Allen Robinson just continuing to be a target monster. 7 targets, caught 6 receptions for 87 yards and a touchdown, 20 fantasy points. Dude was undervalued preseason. I was in an auction draft where I think this guy went for like $11. It's just not preseason. He's not like one of those sexy names, and people don't tend to get on him. But just in a great spot this week against Tennessee defense, who cannot, as you can see, the green 30 right there. I hate pointing that out. Why did I even do that? It just don't look at this. But the thing, whatever. It doesn't tell the whole story. A.J. Brown, I like as well, too. Corey Davis coming on. Man, he always comes on when we least expect it. 10 targets, 8 receptions, 1 touchdown, 128 yards, 29 fantasy points. Jeez Louise. I think he's in play. Darnell Mooney just becoming a really solid number 2 receiver next to Allen Robinson. 6 targets, 5 yards, 69 yards, a touchdown, 17.9. It's basically 18 fantasy points for Mooney. So he could be in play as well. Tight ends, Jonnu Smith got out-snapped by Ferkser, and Jimmy Graham dropped like 5 or 6 balls, I swear. I really do want to see this. Yeah, 7 targets, 2 receptions. I'm very bitter because I had him in a team over on Underdog that was doing really well, and I just needed him to have a floor game, one of his good floor games, but he gave us one of his most terrible floor games of all time. So no need to talk about tight ends. Okay, next game, Las Vegas at the Chargers. Justin Herbert just cooking. I know that's Russ's term, but 23 fantasy points, on the road at Denver. That's a decent floor. Last week against Jacksonville, 41. Against New Orleans, 27. Tampa Bay, 24. I just traded for him in a season-long league, and it's a league that I have Lamar Jackson. So I clearly have confidence in this kid going forward. I love that he locks on to Keenan Allen. Just the targets are insane. Look at this. I mean, since week 2, when did Herbert take over? I think he took. Let's double check that. Some of you probably know this off the top of your head. I think it was week 3. Week 3? No, week 2 against Kansas City. So let's go back to Keenan Allen. Since taking over, he has been targeted. Herbert has targeted Keenan Allen 10, 19, 11. 2. I think he went out early that game. Yeah, he did. 13 and 11. Double-digit targets in every single game that he did not leave early. Keenan Allen is still underpriced and in a great spot this week. Ruggs as well, I think, is a tremendous play. For game log watchers are going to look at this like 6 points, 2 points last week. I don't want to get Ruggs, but with this game environment, it's in LA, no weather. I think it's going to be a much smoother time for Ruggs. Now, the Chargers are a good secondary, or good defense overall, but I think Ruggs has at least one shot to break a deep play in this game. I think it's a much better environment than he's seen the last 2 weeks. So I like him. Not much else. I mean, Aguilar, he's just a fantasy nuisance, dude. Like, look at these. I mean, he's caught 4 touchdowns on the year. Nelson Aguilar. He got over 100 yards in one of those games, over 60 yards. Dude's just sort of been there, just kind of poking you in the side for decent games. And it's just weird. Hunter Renfrow, Waller, and Henry, both in really good spots. If Ruggs is stretching the field, which I think he's going to be able to do, opens things up for Waller. Again, better game environment than last week in the rain, in the wind, with Cleveland and everything. So, yeah, I definitely like this environment. We didn't talk about the running backs. We sort of jumped right over them. Josh Jacobs, he's got the majority of the work here, but I don't have a strong feeling on Josh Jacobs just yet. Justin Jackson, Joshua Kelly, Jackson got 17 attempts. He got some work in the passing game, 17 fantasy points. Wow, I guess my Mac really wanted to show you that he got 17 fantasy points. Joshua Kelly just seems to be losing work. Not really, man, I was so confident in this guy early on. But Justin Jackson at 4,900 could be in play for cash. Decent tournament play as well. I like this game all around. Speaking of other games, I like Miami on the road at Arizona. It was 2 a time this past week. He only got, 8 fantasy points, 6 fantasy points. Nothing crazy. I don't think it's time. It's not 2 a time to fire him up just yet. Kyler Murray in a great spot. Dude's been chucking. His efficiency is great. His rushing looks amazing. I'll just want to shout out on the Gilcast. If you don't listen to that, one of the most entertaining review shows. It's literally the first show I listened to on Monday. It's Sammy Reed, Davis Maddock, and Nate Noling. It's over on the Roto Grinders podcast feed. They talked about Kyler Murray looking like Stewie Griffin out there running with his little kid legs, and it couldn't be more accurate. I was noticing. I was like, man, Kyler Murray looks really strange when he runs, and I'm glad that somebody else pointed that out. I couldn't pinpoint, what it looked like to me, and I don't know if Stewie Griffin is, exactly what he looks like, but just those little legs running, man. It's good stuff. Anyway, so shout out to them for that analysis and that analogy. Kyler looks so weird when he runs. I just can't predict it. Is it kind of like, I don't know. I'm gonna stop right there. This show's going long, longer than it should anyway. So yeah, Kyler, a good play against Miami, sure, why not? Other good plays against Miami. You got Kenyon Drake missing, Chase Edmonds. They got him priced up, but I think it's still a good spot for him. Miami, not a great run defense. And Chase Edmonds is explosive. I think he'll be involved in he'll obviously get the attempts. He'll get the work. He got 7 targets, 7 receptions for 87 yards. Look at that. I mean, he's going to be kind of an all-around guy, and I really like Edmonds this week. Gaskin, he's a fine play as well. He's kind of the same thing. He's kind of guaranteed at least 4 targets. These targets have just been nuts, and Juwan Howard. What is this? 1993. Jordan Howard has not been playing, and it's just been all Myles Gaskin. So, and at 5,900, decent price on him in the receiving game. I mean, obviously Hopkins. His targets have been unbelievable. He's had some letdown spots a couple times, 11 and 9. but he's obviously a phenomenal play. Christian Kirk is a boomer bust guy. 8 targets in the last game, 20 points. I mean, he's shown some consistency the last few weeks. So, he's always in play for tournaments. Don't really like him for cash. Devontae Parker only had 2 targets. I'm not sure. He did catch a touchdown. That's a plus. I'm not sure who is going to be Tua's guy just yet. Preston Williams, he got 5 targets. So I don't think we're really seeing that yet. So I'm not really sure what wide receiver to play. If you're going to stack this game, I don't know, maybe you go Gesicki. He only got 2 targets as well. But it's just hard to say who you run it back with. I mean, a Gaskin run back isn't bad, but I think there's a lot of potential for this game. Let's move on to the last game, Pittsburgh, Dallas. Really great spot for Pittsburgh. Great spot for their defense. Great spot for their receivers. Could be a nice Roethlisberger play, 6,500, sort of middle of the road. It's like, I know I'm going to get a good floor, and I'm going to save some salary here, so Roethlisberger could be a good play. I don't want Elliott. Look, Elliott being priced at 6,600 under James. He's less expensive than James Conner is just. It's kind of nuts if you think about it, and if you look at the overall running back salaries, him being as low as he is oh man. But like, what else are they going to do but just stack the box and try to stop the run, because they're not worried about DiNucci, so they're not really probably double teaming many people. They're probably just going to make sure that Zeke doesn't run on him. So not really sure I like much there. Here's where it gets interesting with guys like Juju Smith-Schuster, Claypool. This could be a massive day for Claypool with this terrible, horrific, awful, horrendous secondary of the Dallas Cowboys. And you got Deontay Johnson, but he gets hurt pretty much every single time he steps on the field. He's $5K. It's it's not like a price that's jumping out at me, but it's not that expensive either. And we've seen what Deontay Johnson can do. I mean, his targets have 15 targets against Tennessee earlier in the season, 13, 10 targets, but he also has 2, 1, and 3 in these games because he left all of those games. And even I think in this Tennessee game, he played most of the game, but he still left with an injury. So it's been one thing or another for Deontay Johnson. Smith-Schuster is the consistent slot guy. He's always out there. He's not going to have great ADOT, like his average depth of target. It's not going to be way down the field, but he can get there through receptions. Because he's got 8 targets for 7 receptions on 8 targets, 9 receptions on 14 in the last 2 weeks. So he's been getting there through that. He hasn't had a touchdown since week 3. But if he catches a TD plus those targets, I think he's good to go. I'm going to want a lot of Pittsburgh receivers this week. Definitely some Claypool, definitely some Smith-Schuster. That's a great price on Claypool, too. I can't wait to see what his ownership is. Eric Ebron. Nope. Apparently the Mac likes Eric Ebron. It does a automatic, weird, random zoom in on the screen. 5 targets, 4 receptions, 48 yards. He got a TD, second TD of the year. He was 3,900. He's now up to 45. Getting a little pricey for a tight end. Don't know if I want that or not. But Ebron is always a potential for a 2-touchdown game anytime he steps on the field. He's just a great red zone monster. And we're going to pretty much wrap it up there. That's the slate. I think going game by game was super helpful. We got an idea of kind of what these environments are going to look like, what matchups might take precedence over others. And I'm feeling really good about this slate, both in cash and GPPs. I don't know where I'm going yet, but I see a lot of opportunity. I really want to look at ownership, and that will determine a lot. So that's going to wrap it up for the show. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks for downloading. Thanks for subscribing. Go over to YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Come on, people. We need subscribers over there. We got to get those numbers up. And until next time, happy Election Day, hopefully. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And may all your GPP dreams come true.